on the walls.
Secrets they repeat, a shadowed figure
with eyes full of lies.
Hiding truths in the shadows where no one dares to pry. Uncover the truth, let the lies come undone. Peel back the layers until the light is shown. Uncover the truth, let the shadows run. Break free from the chains and find the sun. Uncover the truth in the dead of the night, where secrets lie hidden like a whispered bite. Uncover the truth in the dim of the light, where betrayals take root in the heart of the fight. In the rain-soaked streets under...
All right.
In the rain-soaked streets under the roof, Detective Schuman and I find the truth on Bloodlines and Betrayal. I'm your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. And with me, as always, Coach Schuman, who is tan and tired from a long day of camp.
Tan and tired. I like that, actually. That's
but he
good.
comes on the air for you, his loving people, his audience, because he wants to provide content and entertain, because that's what we do best. And today we are going over a very controversial news story, a crime. Some say a crime of passion. Some say a crime we just don't know enough about. But it is the Idaho 4 murders at the University of Idaho in Moscow back in 2022. The University at Idaho or of Idaho had not had a murder since 2015. So this was a fairly big deal, and it really came out of nowhere. And it's in the news because it's been settled, but people are not happy about it. People are definitely not happy about it. So basically, the victims were Ethan Chapin, who was 20, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Madison Mogan. They were all in their early 20s. Washington, Idaho, Arizona, Idaho. Chapin was a freshman. Kernodle was a junior. Goncalves and Mogan were both seniors. And it was just strange because, you know, when I was looking over this case, I was kind of surprised at the outcome because there was not a ton of evidence. So basically, in the early mornings, it was November 13th, 2022. It was right before Thanksgiving break. 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence. It was 1122 King Road in Moscow, okay? And the events are just kind of strange. During the fall semester, 5 of the female University of Idaho students lived in this rented off-campus residence in the rural college town of Moscow, Idaho. It was a 3-story home and it had 6 bedrooms, 2 on each floor. So there were survivors of this, but the survivors of it acted kind of odd, okay? Basically, earlier in the evening, 2 of the 4 victims, Chapin and Kernodle, were reportedly at an on-campus party, a frat party, from 8 p.m. until 1:45 a.m. The other 2 victims, Mogan and Goncalves, had gone to the Corner Club, which was a downtown sports bar, at 10 p.m. and left at around 1:30 a.m. I believe they went to University of Idaho Vandals game as well. Don't quote me on that. I thought that was in the afternoon. They live streamed themselves on Twitch by the Grub Truck, a food truck 4 blocks south of, Main and 4th Streets. It showed Mogan and Goncalves at 1:41 a.m. chatting, smiling, having a good time. They got their food 10 minutes later, and they left in an Uber. And it was just a mile home, and it was probably around 1:58 when they got home. According to the surviving roommates, the 4 students were home by 2 a.m. Between 2:26 and 2:52, Goncalves' phone made 7 unanswered calls to her former longtime boyfriend. Between 2:44 and 2:52, Mogan's phone made 3 unanswered calls to the same person. This was somewhat suspicious. Authorities investigated the calls and concluded the recipient was not involved in the crime. This is the other thing I found funny and something I would absolutely do. A DoorDash order of food was delivered by Jack in the Box at 4 o'clock in the morning, labeled for Kernodle, and delivered to the house around 4 a.m. So, the two surviving roommates returned around 1. Original reports stated they were in beds on the ground floor at the time of the killings. They were not attacked, not held hostage, and the strangest thing to me, they did not awaken during the killings. Because if you're on a 3-story house or whatever, and your roommates are being stabbed to death, I would think you would hear something. So what they said was they were awakened by the dog in the house. And one of the roommates stated that she heard someone saying something to the effect of, "There's someone here." The roommate believed that this was Goncalves, although investigators also believe it might have been Kernodle. Forensic download of their cell phone showed that she was in the apartment on TikTok at 4:12 in the morning. The surviving roommate.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. That's what I'm saying. It is weird. So she's awake on her phone on TikTok at 4:12 while the murderer is entering. The surviving roommate stated she opened the door twice, a short period, and the second time heard crying from Kernodle's room and an unfamiliar male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And security cameras near their home picked up the sound of whimpering, a loud thud, and the dog barking numerous times. The surviving roommate opened the door a third time, saw a figure in clad black clothing, a mask that covered his mouth and nose, walking towards her. The man, the roommate said she didn't recognize, walked past her and exited through the sliding glass door. The roommate stated she stood in a frozen shock phrase and then locked herself in the room. Okay, so this is the odd part. Like, nobody called 911 right away. The 4 victims were stabbed to death, okay, on the 2nd and 3rd floors in the residence, and they were all in bed. They were not gagged, restrained. The walls were splattered in blood. It was just a mess. So the perpetrator walked up the stairs first, murdered the people on the 3rd floor, walked down to the 2nd floor, murdered Mogan and Goncalves, who were found in Mogan's room. They slept together. Kernodle and Chapin were found in Kernodle's room. Before the 911 call, the surviving roommates reportedly summoned friends to the residence. This is odd. friends to the residents because they believed one of the second floor victims was unconscious and was not waking up. Someone at the residence finally called. This is what's crazy to me. Nobody called 911 until noon the next day, over 7 hours after the homicide occurred. Yeah, that's what's crazy to me. And it was because, you know, how do you see someone in a mask walk right by you at 4:00 in the morning and not call 911? And he said that, you know, don't worry, I'm here to help you.
That's what he said to her?
Yeah, when he walked by her, he said, don't worry, I'm here to help you. She was frozen in shock. So,
and he did not attempt to go at her.
No. He specifically went to the third floor, attacked those two victims, came down to the second floor. There's 2 bedrooms on the second floor. He went to the 1 bedroom, attacked those 2 victims brutally with a knife, and then he left survivors and he left witnesses. So the police arrived. The door to the home was open. There was no sign of forced entry. There was no damage to the house. Nothing was missing. The 2 surviving roommates were present when police arrived, as were friends of the victims. All 4 victims were pronounced dead at noon. Detectives believe the killing occurred between 4 and 4:25. Upon searching the residence, they found the dog, which one of the victims shared with her ex-boyfriend, alive and unharmed. Of course, the dog, you can't kill a dog. It's easier to kill a human than the dog. So, University of Idaho canceled classes. They had a candlelight vigil, and the investigation kind of stalled out. The many students in Moscow didn't trust the police assurances that were, you know, they were fearing for their safety. They left for Thanksgiving early. They didn't come back until late. And the residents who stayed were very anxious, cautious. Professors canceled classes. And 2 of the victims' families, Gonkalev's and Chapin's fathers, criticized the limited flow of information from police and the university to the victims' families. Now, this is obvious because in any active investigation, they're not going to give away tips. They're not going to give away everything that happened. They have to keep some stuff close to the vest. So in this day and age, Dave, as you know, TikTokers, self-proclaimed psychics, social media users, and sleuths began to speculate and spread rumors and misinformation about the case on social media. In response, the police department criticized all these internet sleuths for creating rampant online rumors, disruptive investigations, and terror among the student body. And this was on December 2nd. There is no speculation without factual backing, stoking community fears, and spreading false facts, Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier said. Tracking down rumors, quelling rumors, and specific information about specific events that may not or may have happened is a huge distraction. We are not releasing specific details because we don't want to compromise the investigation. And this was also going on. They warned people harassing or threatening those potentially involved with the case and that they could face criminal charges. So students in Idaho who were dissatisfied with the investigation were coming up with their own suspects, and they were pulling a turtle boy and harassing them. and questioning them and wanting to know their whereabouts. And it got out of hand. Like, it got pretty heated. So,
Yes.
yeah. So nearly 130 law enforcement members from 3 agencies worked the case. The autopsies were performed in Spokane, Washington. The Latah County coroner stated the victims all appeared to have been stabbed multiple times, fatal wounds to the chest, upper body with a large knife, if not the same knife, a very similar one. At least one of the victims did have defensive wounds on her hands, and possibly more appear to have tried to fend off the attacker, and the victims may have been attacked while asleep. Now, I can see that they were probably drunk and asleep.
Right.
No signs showed a sexual assault. All 4 deaths were ruled a homicide by stabbing. And again,
he admitted to it, so that's the big thing.
Well, see, that's the issue, and we'll get to that. No weapon was recovered. There was no sexual assault, and they weren't bound and gagged. So this is what's strange. The surviving roommate who saw the person walk past him, said that he was 5'10", not muscular, but he was athletically built with bushy eyebrows. So they opened the tip line. They got 2,600 email tips, 2,700 phone calls, and 1,000 digital media submissions. So what police really thought this was a targeted attack. They thought it was a targeted attack. One of the victims in the killing was allegedly supposed to have a stalker. So that was part of it. They thought she had a stalker, and the stalker finally lost it. But this is also what's strange to me. The attack happened November 13th. It wasn't until December 15th that police looked at surveillance video outside of the apartment. And they announced they were searching for 22,000 fifth-generation Hyundai Elantras made between 2011 and 2013, because the surveillance camera captured the video of a white-colored Elantra at the time of the murders, and it made multiple passes in the complex. It was going back and forth, round and round and round. And then finally, around 3:29, and then the last was at 4:04, and then it just stopped. They don't know where exactly it was, but they didn't see it leave. So then it returned. It showed it speeding away at 4:20. Okay, from the victim's neighborhood. So investigators in Pullman, Washington, which is adjacent to Moscow, and I didn't even know this, Washington State University is only 9 miles away from the university.
How close they are to each other.
Yeah, I never knew that. It's only 9 miles away. So the investigators in Pullman, Washington said that the white Elantra was owned by 28-year-old PhD candidate and teaching assistant Bryan Kohberger, who drove it home to the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania for the holidays with his father. So this is also what's strange. The day after the murders, Kohberger's father gets on a plane. Kohberger's from Pennsylvania. Kohberger's father gets on a plane the next day, takes the first flight out to Idaho, and they drive the car back to Pennsylvania for the holidays, which was unusual. And then what's even more unusual, in Indiana, Kohberger was pulled over twice in nearly a 5-mile radius by state police on Interstate I-70 outside of Greenfield, Indiana, for following too close. He was tailgating. The FBI denied that it directed the state police not to make stops. Investigators obtained cell phone data showing Kohberger's phone stopped connecting to the network at Pullman around 2:47 a.m. on November 13th, the date of the murders, before reconnecting at 4:48 a.m. in Blaine, Idaho, which is south of Moscow, 10 or 20 miles. It was approximately 5 hours. It connected around 9 a.m., 5 hours after the killings. It pinged from the tower. It was far away from the murder scene. And when he was questioned, he said he was stargazing. He got up in the middle of the night and was stargazing. So this is how they caught him, which is basically becoming more and more a technique used. They obtained 3 unidentified male DNA samples from the crime scene, including DNA found on the tan leather knife sheath on Mogen's bed. They used a public genealogy database. So that's like ancestry.com, one of those. And they identified a partial match to an individual with familial connection to Kohberger. And investigators took trash from outside of Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania for DNA. And they stated it was consistent with the source from the sheath, and it was from the father. So before the arrest, investigators monitored Kohberger outside his parents' house. He was seen multiple times wearing surgical gloves, placing trash bags inside a neighbor's garage can. The items were sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. Authorities also said Kohberger cleaned his car inside and outside. He didn't miss an inch. And a search of Kohberger's home where he was arrested revealed a knife, pistol, and black face mask, as well as several ID cards. Now, the knife was not a match to the weapon. Kohberger was taken into state custody by the SWAT team on December 30th at his parents' home. And they found him in his kitchen wearing examination gloves, putting trash into a separate bag. What's funny is I just think if I had done something like this and I called home, I think my mother would have called the police on me and said, "It's him, go get him right now." I don't know that my dad would have taken the first flight out and driven me back home.
Yeah.
Like you killed 4 people.
Strange. So you're saying that they're complicit? They knew?
Oh, they had to have. He had to have confessed to them. There's no other way that this wasn't a planned trip. His father booked the first flight from Pennsylvania to Idaho the next day. And, I'm assuming he either minimized what he did or told him what he did and said, we need to clean the car and get out of here. So what's interesting about Kohberger, he was kind of a fat kid growing up. not very athletic. He was bullied. He attended Monroe Career and Technical Institute in Bartonsville, but dropped out a year later. 2015, he worked as a security officer for Pleasant Valley School District.
Oh.
Kohberger later attended Northampton's community college campus, and he earned an associate's degree in psych in 2018. And then he enrolled in undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. He got a bachelor's and a master's in criminal justice from DeSales University. Have you heard of DeSales University?
No. There's a lot of universities I've never heard of, though.
I've never heard of it either, but it's apparently a pretty good school.
Okay.
So he moved to Washington in the summer of 2022 to pursue his PhD. Now, what's also interesting, again, it's 8 miles from the University of Idaho. Now, at the time of the killings, he was a doctoral student in criminology, and he completed his first semester 9 days before his arrest. But he was also a TA at Washington State. Less than 2 weeks before the murder, faculty members met with him to discuss growing concerns and complaints about his behavior and conduct towards women. And he was terminated from his TA role December 19th, with the decision being based on his behavior and performance overall. After being evaluated, Kohberger was diagnosed with, he's on the spectrum. He's autistic. I'm on the spectrum. You're on the spectrum. We're all on the fucking spectrum. He wrote online that he faced mental health challenges and suffered from a condition called visual snow syndrome. So he wasn't. It still blows my mind. Like, he was arrested. The incident happened November 13th. He wasn't arrested until December 30th. 4 counts. He got to spend Christmas, Thanksgiving at home.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he arrested on the 4 counts of murder. He was indicted. He was held. Well, he was extradited. He was indicted. He was held without bail. And then he wasn't indicted until May 17th, 2023. So that blows my mind, because usually once you're arrested, the clock's ticking and you have 90 days to be indicted. So May 17th is late to be indicted.
Right.
So they had a probable cause hearing, and Kohberger really didn't assist in his defense. When asked if he was guilty or not guilty, he wouldn't answer. The judge said not guilty. So they were seeking the death penalty on aggravating circumstances. 4 first-degree murder charges. He was denied bond, and the judge granted the defense access under seal the results of the investigative genetic genealogy testing, which used touch samples from the knife sheath left behind the crime scene, which led to the investigation of Kohberger. So basically, in the fall of this year, they got a change of venue motion. This went on and on. Change of venue. It was going to go to Boise, and the trial was supposed to start August 25th. And, on June 30th, this is what pissed people off. Kohberger announced that he was pleading guilty to all counts against him and would be sentenced to 4 life sentences. But he usually when you plead guilty, you have to allocute and say, like, you know, what you did, how you did it, all that stuff. And the judge has to accept it because there's a lot of false confessions and all that. So the families were pissed off. They were mad that they didn't take this to trial. And the DA was like, we really didn't have a ton of evidence. The only evidence we have is he purchased the knife. They had, you know, some of his DNA on the sheath of the knife, but that was really it. The surviving victim couldn't identify him because he was in a mask, and they had his car. I mean, I think they could have rolled the dice and taken it to trial. Thompson, the DA said prosecutors did not have any direct evidence that Kohberger had contact with the victims, had been inside the home prior to the murders. There was no phone calls, no text messages, no emails. You know, there were strange searches on his computers. I mean, he searched Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, but I mean, he was a criminology major. And, you know, he got this deal without having to allocute. And that infuriated the victims' families, because, you know, they want to know what happened. They want to know why.
Right.
And they're never going to know that. All he did was, according to the plea deal, he agreed to plead guilty. He agreed, they gave him a deal that said he didn't have to say what happened. The families all wanted him to get the death penalty, of course.
Right.
The parents are pissed. They said the state is showing mercy by removing the death penalty. Kohberger did not show Kaylee any mercy, the family wrote. His life on death row while serving his time would have been much worse than serving his time life in prison. He doesn't deserve life in prison. He deserved life on death row. Another, you know, Steve Goncalves, the father of one of the daughters, has been vocal in his criticism of the agreement, who admitted to, you know, he said the family feels they were used by the government attorneys as prosecutors compiled a mountain of evidence. Goncalves also added that he would have preferred the option of a trial and potential death sentence. And the issue is because there's no motive. This particular settlement is not only agreeable to half the victim families, but it's also defensible and explicable in the community's best interest. That's what the DA said, which basically means it's saving us money to not have to try. But it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. Why these girls? What was his motive? And, you know, why did he go up to the third floor? Why did he kill them? Come back down to the second floor, kill them. Why did he leave two remaining witnesses? And the other strange thing, how can somebody be on TikTok at 4:12 while their roommates are being murdered? And how can nobody call 911 until noon the next day? That's what blows my mind. So,
did they know him at all?
No, nobody knew him. He's from University of Washington. He had no ties to anyone. That's what makes this so perplexing.
Were they that drunk, I guess?
Not really. They showed them walking around. You can see him on surveillance video getting food. at 1:45 a.m. They don't look shit-faced. They don't look like they're falling over. They don't look like they got GHB'd. I mean, or roofied. They look okay. But
it's a weird.
But the roommate, I mean, if it's you and it's you and I would beat the shit out of the guy. But if it's 4:00 in the morning and a masked man walks by you and says, "Don't worry, I'm here to help you," the surviving roommate ran into her room and locked the door.
I could see a woman doing that.
But not calling 911?
Yes, but she didn't call 911 is the strange part.
That's why if I'm playing devil's advocate, which I always do, if I was Kohberger, I would have gone to trial. They don't have anything on me. All they have is the blood. He really didn't. All they have is he really didn't care. But all they had was his DNA on the sheath of the knife, and they had video of his car driving around. That was it. And his suspicious behavior of driving home right after his father flying out and driving home. And I mean, his public defender apparently had a pretty good case to put on for him. They were planning to go to trial. She was as surprised as anyone that he decided to plead guilty. Why wait all these years and, 2 months before trial, plead guilty? But I mean, people said he was weird. He was one of those loners. He was a fat kid. He got in shape afterwards when he was like 17. Didn't have a lot of friends, socially awkward, on the spectrum. We're all on the goddamn spectrum. But I think they could have presented reasonable doubt. I think there's reasonable doubt you could drive a truck through. You don't have a murder weapon. You can prove that he drove around the house. You can't prove that he was in the house. Right. You can prove he bought the knife sheath. There's no knife. DNA is transferable everywhere. Now, is he guilty? I believe 100% he's guilty. But I believe he could have fought it.
He didn't want to.
I don't know. I don't know if he didn't want to or if he just, saw the writing on the wall that he was going to get convicted for the death penalty. And he didn't want to take his chances there.
Every time I hear you say the word sheath, I think of this. And I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
What, shaft?
Every time you say sheath.
Yeah. What do you think of? The shaft of your dick or what? Oh.
I think of this. This
great TV. Nothing beats supplies.
What are you doing? That's my customer.
It certainly is not. When I came upon her, she was unattended.
No, that's what. She was unattended because I went back to get the brochure that she requested.
I apologize, but it's too late. The transaction has been completed.
Well, then you're going to give me half the commission.
You will receive half the commission.
I need to talk to Paula.
Every time I make a go crying to Paula. How about Jesse Jackson? Oh, Jesse, he needs a cause.
Sick of you poaching my customers.
I'm sick of your crybaby bullshit.
You want to take the shit outside? Take it outside and just squash it?
No, let's stay inside so everybody can see what a pussy you have, okay? Because from the sheath, I can't return it until it has spilled blood.
That's what makes you think of sheath.
Every time you say sheath, that's what I think of. Because that's the only time in my life I ever really heard someone use the word sheath, like in a.
Well,
but yeah,
I mean, it was
first
it was
of all,
fucked up.
Obviously, I think it's straightforward. A psychopath.
Right, but the lack of physical evidence, I would have rolled the dice and gone to trial. I mean, there's been obviously 3 years of notoriety. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it with 3 years of notoriety, that you're going to have a problem. But
Yeah.
I also believe that there was not a lot of physical evidence. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. You can't put the murder weapon in his hand. He can't be identified at the house. All you have is his car driving around.
Very weird.
I think you could have rolled the dice and went to trial. I think that, anything can happen. Trials, juries are stupid. So it was unexpected that he pled guilty. Came out of nowhere. Families were pissed off that they gave him the deal without forcing him to allocute. All he had to say was, I did it. I killed them. He didn't have to give an account as to how he went through with it, which I think is derelict on many levels, because maybe someone else was the killer. The killer has to know something that only the killer would know to prove that he actually did it. So that's my only argument. If they're sure they got the right guy, and the car, the DNA, and they're confident with that, they're confident with that. Me personally, in a capital murder situation, I would have liked to have seen more, and I honestly would have liked to have seen him get the death penalty. I mean, he brutally slaughtered 4 people in their sleep.
Right.
He drove over from Washington.
Well, that was the plea deal they gave him. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, that's they gave him, life without parole. He's gonna serve 4 life sentences, whatever. And I think that they should never have given him a plea deal. I think that they should have taken him to trial and given him the death penalty. But they said that it would have cost more for the state and appeals and all that, because when you take a deal, you give up your right to appeal. So
it's
sad. It's sad. They bulldozed the house.
Yeah, I heard that.
They put a garden there. 4 kids in their 20s murdered like that, just by a criminology major. And some of his friends mentioned that, like, he always wanted to pull off the perfect crime. Well, he sure as shit didn't.
That's so weird, dude. People are so weird.
They are.
Like what would make you think that would be a good thing to do?
Well, just random. Like, why are you picking these 4?
Wanting to go to jail. I mean, like, he really had these. He's a serial killer, but he had never done
urges, yeah,
and never did anything. And
well, they blame it on autism.
What do you blame it on?
Autism. They blame it on autism.
Did he really?
He's on the spectrum.
So, what about being on the spectrum would make you?
I'm kidding.
No, I know you're kidding. I'm saying that, like, why is that a defense?
Because sometimes autistic people don't have feelings. They just don't feel anything. So they'll do something outlandish, hurt themselves or hurt others just to feel something.
Yeah.
So
I think that's bad for the autism community, which is probably
no, we're all autistic to an extent. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
I think we all are. We're all. the spectrum is so vast now. Like I could go in and just like they could say I'm on the spectrum because I'm a sarcastic prick. If I went in and was my sarcastic prick self, they would say I'm on the spectrum.
I don't know. I don't think so. They would say you're more on the psychotic.
No, you're just an asshole. You're just an asshole. You're not autistic. You're just
you're
an
on
asshole.
the psychotic spectrum. You're not on the.
So tomorrow's your last day.
Yes.
It's 11 to 4?
No, 9 to 1.
9 to 1. 9 to 1. Okay.
But it's 9,000 degrees out. So.
Oh, I know it's brutal. It's brutal out. It's brutal out.
It's a difficult deal. You know, you're the one that you have streaming to your thing. It's for some reason they're having.
Yeah, I know it's not working. That's fine. I'll just copy the link, the YouTube link.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know. You know, that's a strange case.
Well, it's a strange guy. It's a strange case. The weird people do weird things. I mean, people who are loners, they don't give a shit. I mean, what do they have to lose? They're gonna not see their non-existent friends.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what happens.
That is what happens. That is what happens. I tell you, when you get to, first of all, the whole Washington State, Idaho being so close.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's what's crazy. He just drove 8.5 miles. He's across state lines.
I wonder why they set up the universities so close to each other.
Yeah. Idaho's a big state.
It's all the way west Idaho, and Washington State is all the way eastern Washington.
Right.
They must have some connection to each other.
So what do you think? What are you thinking for next week? What would you like to do? Any ideas come to your head?
Yeah, David Koresh.
Oh, I love David Koresh.
Yep.
David Koresh and Jim Jones. I love all those cult leaders.
Yeah, I'm always
I'm fascinated by the cult leaders.
Yeah, how they get from, because there's always a progression, because initially they're well intentioned most of the time.
Jim Jones was, yeah, before he left. Yeah, before he left for Jonestown, yeah. I'm trying to. Jim Jones was pictured with Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife, I believe. Or no, was that John Wayne Gacy? One of them. Jim Jones was doing a lot of good for the church, and then he basically isolated everyone from their families and moved to Georgetown in South America in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it was slave labor. He made them build this town, and all they did was work, harvesting crops, cooking, raising kids. It was amazing if you look up Jonestown. So yeah, I'll do David Koresh. I love David Koresh. David Koresh, the Unabomber, that's all good stuff.
It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I got Chris Bellamy on tomorrow night. He's going to come yell at me, so I can't wait for that. Chris Bellamy.
What's he going to yell at you about?
I don't know. We'll find something.
I was going to say, did you see the David Koresh, that movie? on the whole situation?
I've seen several. Is there a recent one you're referring to?
I don't know. I saw a movie. I can't remember who starred in it, but it was like
Yeah. Fictional movie?
it wasn't fiction. It was about the story.
I've seen the documentaries.
Yeah.
I've seen the documentaries, yes. Because that one was crazy. That was because he had an arsenal of weapons. They stormed his compound and they were blasting loud music all night so nobody could sleep. It was the craziest standoff I ever heard of.
Yeah, and alcohol, tobacco, really were like they met with him. David Koresh was like, come out and meet with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Strange. It was just a whole.
Well, he was like, we have nothing to hide. We just have weapons. You know, we consider ourselves sovereign. You know, we don't abide by your
I
government.
feel like they should have. No, I guess the reason why they busted out because there was underage.
Yeah, there were. He was having sex with underage children. Yes.
Right. So that's what the problem was, the girls. And
yes.
But I think they should have figured out a way to get him out and just get him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying because I don't.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to surrender himself. He wasn't going to be taken alive, and he told him that. So we can do this your way or my way, and they all drank the Kool-Aid.
Crazy. That was a crazy case. That's worth talking about.
Yeah, we can do that one.
I think you could do the one about the standoff in maybe it was Idaho actually at oh shoot. Let me hold on. I'll tell you right now. Famous standoff in Idaho. Ruby Ridge. Did we do that?
Oh, Ruby Ridge is legendary. Yeah.
They're like the soldiers, right?
I love Ruby Ridge.
Because that was the error they made, I think, too, was similar because Ruby Ridge had a similar issue, right?
Yes.
In there.
The weapons, yes.
And everyone basically became a shootout.
Yeah.
And that's Ruby Ridge. So those would be good. I think those would be two good ones back to back.
Yeah, those would be good ones. I will absolutely do that.
You know, Koresh Jim Jones would be good too. I mean, that was a whole.
Oh, Jim Jones is my favorite.
Did you ever?
I watched so many documentaries on that.
Did they ever talk to you about the one on the people who wore the Nike shoes?
No.
You don't know about that one?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you. Hold on. That was the Heaven's Gate.
No, I never heard of Heaven's Gate.
I'll read you a little quick. Heaven's Gate was a cult.
Right.
Okay. And they believed in like UFOs and stuff. So they their central belief of the group was that followers could transform themselves into immortal extraterrestrial beings by rejecting their human nature, and they would ascend to heaven, referred to as the next level or the evolutionary level above human.
Wow.
The death of Nettles, I guess must be the founder, from cancer in 1985, challenged the group's views of ascension. While they originally believed that they would ascend to heaven while live aboard a UFO.
Oh my God.
They came to believe the body was merely a container or vehicle for the soul, and their consciousness would be
Right.
transferred to next level bodies upon death.
Oh, I gotta look that up. Man,
Yeah,
see if I
they're
can find
crazy.
a documentary on that.
In 1997, San Diego found 39 active bodies of 39 members of the group, including Applewhite, who must be one of the founders, including Applewhite, in a house in San Diego County suburb Rancho Santa Fe. They participated in a coordinated ritual of suicides coinciding with closest approach of the Comet Hale-Bopp. Just before the mass suicide, the group's website, Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth has finally come to a conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T's crew. Crazy shit.
Well, then, yeah, let's
That's
do.
And it's much more in depth too. I'm just reading you.
Yeah, I'm gonna read about it. I'm gonna see if we can find a documentary.
You'll read it. You'll be like, "This is cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff."
Let's do let's do David Koresh Friday then.
They kind of thought of themselves as like Star Trek people.
Yeah,
like Star
that
Trek
makes sense.
It was like, I don't know. So whatever you want. Like, there's obviously there's endless shit in this stuff.
Let's do David Koresh Friday. There's nothing going on in Yukon land.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's possible.
I'll do another one because you'll be off.
Yeah, I have a great motivational guy coming on Friday in the Prospect podcast. Famous one, famous guy.
Oh, good. Yeah, we can do it after.
Yes. All right. That was it. Like, I don't have that much input because the only thing I can think of is that on Kohberger is that he was out of his mind, and I don't know.
Yeah, he was a loner.
He got into his mind.
Yeah,
I don't know what got into his mind.
Well, he started off a rough life. He straightened himself out, and then as soon as he moved west, he lost his mind. I mean, he got his life together. He got his bachelor's and master's. He was going for his doctorate. He goes to Washington State. Can't last a semester.
Have you seen the movie with John Cusack where it's called Identity?
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, I love that movie.
Oh,
I love that movie.
First time I watched that movie, I did not see exactly what was coming. I
didn't either.
And then after I saw it the first time and I rewatched it,
I was like, holy fuck.
Oh shit, how did I miss all this?
They were killing off the identities in his head. Yeah, it was great.
And then the identity he was left with was him as a killer.
Yes. It was great. I loved it.
And then he takes out the guys who are his like COs, I guess, or whatever.
His handlers, yeah.
Yeah. That was a crazy man.
Yeah, I remember
movie
that
to this
one.
day always perplexes me on like
I remember that.
How the bad guy won in his mind. You know what I mean? Like in his mind.
Yeah, that's all that counts.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I win in my mind every day.
You're the bad guy? Oh,
no, I win at life every day.
Oh, I was gonna say that movie was the first. There's a few there's very few movies that I've watched for the first time and thought, shit. Like, I'll tell you another one that I thought was crazy. The first time I saw it, and I watched all of them, but the rest of them weren't as good. But the first one just fucked me up. Was Saw.
Oh yeah, Saw. The first one.
I mean, the rest of them are like, obviously, the theme going forward. They're all crazy. You know what's going to happen. But the first one like with the whole like when they're in that room and you're just like, what? And I'm like, shit. Like it's just crazy. One guy like, you know.
Yeah,
one guy,
no, I remember that one.
You know, it was crazy. So but yeah, that one was a crazy one. Crazy. But the Cusack one was crazier because it was so realistic.
Oh, it was demented. Yeah, I know.
Like it could happen to a guy that's a killer like that person was. And
Absolutely.
and he create because you think to
They
yourself,
were trying to get the good personalities, the good personality left in his head. He had like the 8 different personalities.
right. And the crazy part was like to me,
And the serial killer won.
serial killer one. And the crazy part of the whole thing is
There's a female in it, and
because you have to say to yourself, how do most of these kind of really bad people, they probably, if you ask them, they would not view themselves as bad for the most
no,
part.
that's they're narcissists.
There are some that are evil that will tell you they're evil, you know, like
Yeah.
you see some of these gang members and stuff like that. I don't think any of them think that they're
No,
I mean,
Ted Bundy wouldn't say he was evil.
right.
They're
But I'm saying some of
narcissists.
these people, yeah, they give in to their urges,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
different, which is like a crazy psychotic mindset versus someone's mindset who's like a stone cold killer who wants to be a killer, like who's
Yeah.
like a gang member, or you know, it like they going into it with the intent. That's the crazy thing about
that's honing their craft. It's just getting better at it.
right, where the serial killer at the end of everything just goes back to their life thinking they're a normal person.
Yeah. That's why BTK was dormant for 20 years.
Who's that?
You know who BTK is?
What's BTK stand for?
He's one of the most notorious serial killers ever. Bind, torture, kill.
No. Yeah,
Well,
see, that's
look BTK up in the Green River Killer. 2 of the most notorious serial killers. BTK went dormant for like 30 years. Dennis Rader in Kansas.
He's still alive.
Yeah, he there was a series of killings in the 70s, and he went dormant for like 20 plus years, and they think it's because he got married and had kids. But then when his daughter went off to college, that's when he started taunting the media, and he ended up getting caught. He didn't kill again, but he taunted and revealed his identity.
Wow. Because he was starting to get the urges again, I guess.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
So he got married.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And his daughter has done several interviews and podcasts.
What did she say?
She never knew.
And how did he meet his wife?
I don't know that part.
That's incredible. That's craziness.
Well, the crazy part is how they caught him. He was communicating to police through letters, and he asked the police, if I send a floppy disk, can it be traced? Please don't lie. And they lied to him, and they said, no, it can't be traced. So he sent a disk with information about the murder, and they traced it right back to where it came from. The Microsoft Word, who owned it, where it was located, and the person that accessed the file. That's how dumb he was. He escaped law enforcement for 30 years, and then the floppy disk did him in because he didn't think it could be traced. He didn't chat GPT it.
It's crazy.
All right, so we'll do.
Wow, this is crazy.
I know. Read it. We'll do BTK too. So we'll do Friday. We'll do.
I think I might be scared after doing him.
We'll do David Koresh.
David, like yeah.
And then Ruby Ridge, and then I'm going to read about, what was it, New Haven?
I wonder if the parasites get into these people's brains.
Hell's Gate. That's what you said.
Hell's Gate.
I'll look at that.
Was it Hell's Gate? No, Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate. I'll look at that. All right. So for Detective Schuman, I'm Lieutenant Cully. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.